to the Travel Gluten-Free podcast, where you can listen in on how to lead a gluten-free lifestyle with more fun and ease. Travel gluten-free is like having a best friend by your side to give you the most up-to-date gluten-free traveler information. Let Travel Gluten-Free be your #1 source for tips, tricks, and advice you can use to safely navigate your next gluten-free travel adventure. Enjoy food, enjoy travel, and enjoy life. And now, here's your show host, Illiquity.
Hey, my friends, it's Illiquity. Welcome back to another episode of the Travel Gluten-Free podcast. I am super excited to have my guest on with me today. But before we jump into her interview, I want to remind you to make sure you go over to my YouTube channel and subscribe, because I'm going to be coming out with some great live YouTube videos weekly. So definitely subscribe so you can see those. And I'm also going to be putting some of my recorded video episodes on there as well. So go over to Travel Gluten-Free Podcast on YouTube and check those out. I'm excited about my guest today, Jen. Jen, welcome to the Travel Gluten-Free Podcast.
Thank you so much. I am so happy to be here today.
I'm super excited. We met at PodFest. It was kind of almost by accident. Well, I guess it's not by accident because the universe clearly threw us together, because we both have disabilities. We both like to travel, and we both have had good and bad experiences travel. So we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But and you have an amazing podcast that anybody who's listening to this podcast absolutely needs to listen to it, because let me tell you, I was listening to your podcast, and because I'm in podcasting for my business, and I've literally written show notes for over 3,000 episodes of podcasts, I've practically heard everything. But like, your podcast is so inspiring. And so like, I was literally crying during one of your podcasts. Like, I hardly ever cry during a podcast. It was, oh my gosh. Like, when I was listening to you talk, I was like, oh my God, life's worth living. This isn't as bad as it should. It was awesome. So you're such an inspiration to me. I love everything that you're doing. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yes. So let's start off by telling us, so you don't have celiac disease, but you do have other disabilities that are clearly definitely giving you challenges in life. So let's start off by telling my listeners, like, what are your challenges and disabilities? Let's start off with just by doing that. What are your challenges and disabilities that you deal with on a daily basis?
So I have food allergies, which is why I love listening to your podcast, because gluten is one of my allergies. But I also have a disease called myasthenia gravis. It's a autoimmune disease. And I have muscular dystrophy. People frequently think that it's MS, but it's not. It's actually MD. So my muscles, it's limb-girdle muscular dystrophy, plus another kind of weird thing they don't know that's going with it. But my muscles are literally melting away in sections. So I was misdiagnosed for a long time as having laziness. And because they kept saying, well, because you sit around, that's why you're losing muscle. But when they did the tests, they would see, it's interesting in my thigh, like one muscle is completely there and the next one is completely gone. And the next one's completely there. And the next one might be halfway gone. It's a very distinct pattern that is not from just sitting around. And I also have arthritis and asthma and all the things, because my body just has decided to collect a bunch of unique experiences and give me the chance to share them with the world at this time.
I feel sometimes just like, really. And I don't have like anywhere near half the stuff you have. And it's incredible, all the things you do with all your disabilities, Jen. So one of the things, I know you like to travel. How do your disabilities affect your everyday daily life? Like, what are some of the workarounds you need to do in general, like just to be functioning and feeling like you're having a quote unquote normal day within the context of your disabilities?
So that's so interesting, because nobody ever asks me that. So people look at me and they think that I'm just fine, and they think I'm making all this up. When I first started podcasting, I was only out of bed 2 to 4 hours a day. And the rest of the time I couldn't even be on the couch, because my body, I just get so uncomfortable. So I was literally in bed. And now I'm up a lot more. I'm up about 8 hours a day to 10 hours a day even sometimes, which for me is a huge win.
That's 400% more.
Right?
Yeah.
It's great. I have to take pain medicine to get up in the morning, though. I cannot get up without taking something to alleviate the pain, because I can't move. It hurts so bad. And then I usually don't get going until about 10, which is another thing that people just don't understand. They want me to have meetings in the morning, and that whole lazy thing comes back up. It's very frustrating, because my body just won't move. And part of that is because I also can't sleep at night, which there's also medicine for that. But even with that, my body.
Well, because prescription sleep medication, it makes you tired, but it doesn't make you really sleep well.
No. And so trying to get off of all, so I'm trying to finesse that. And then I can't eat in the morning. I can't eat until about 2 in the afternoon. It just makes me physically sick. So I've had the same smoothie for 7 years every morning. I'm supposed to have extra protein because of my muscle problems. I need a lot of protein, but I also don't really like eating meat. And so I have a really good berry smoothie in the morning that gets me going until the afternoon. I take a lot of time of rest. People don't realize, I met you in person at PodFest, and I didn't want to bring a cane there because it does make people uncomfortable, even though I don't mind making people uncomfortable when I need something. But I got a rolling backpack that had a handle. I'll lean on that, or I'll lean on walls, or I'll put my hand on a table and lean on that. And so people don't think that I really can't stand up straight, but I've learned how to lean into things so that can kind of help me. Just a lot of rest. So if I'm going to do something, a lot of people think of their energy like spoons, but for me, it's been a bank. Before I heard spoons, I think of my energy like money. So if I want to come and see you in Oregon, I am going to fill my bank up with money. So for about several weeks in advance, I'm going to not do a lot outside the house. I'm going to sleep a lot. I'm going to rest a lot. And then when I get home, I'm going to melt in a puddle for about 2 weeks and not really get out of bed too much except to take care of my kids. And that's about it. But to me, it's worth it because I want to live my life. And that's my new thing, is helping people live the life of their dreams, even if they can't get off the couch, because there's so many people that sit there and think they can't do anything. And I'm getting a lot done, even though I have these limitations.
And I know technology is a huge part of that, but that means I just have to come out to you. But the other thing is, I will let you know this: if you get a wheelchair at Disney, you get to hop all the lines. So that gives you an advantage. Right? It's like really the silver lining. Just get the wheelchair, go to Disney, just hop all the lines. So when you travel, you said before you have to rest a lot and stuff, but when you're actually traveling, what are some of the things? And we're going to get to your United story, but I want to do that after the break. What are some of the things you have to do when you travel just to get from place to place? Because you definitely are working with a very, very limited amount of energy.
This is going to sound like a silly thing, but I bring a blanket everywhere I go. Because leaning back on things, I can't even use a normal pillow because I need to support even the back of my neck. I don't know what that's about. It's the muscles. And so I have to have a blanket everywhere. I look like a little kid. And I really absolutely have to have my medicine. And then I have a BiPAP. So some people think it's a CPAP. It's similar to a CPAP, like what you use for sleep apnea, but it's also a non-invasive ventilator. So I've been in ICU on the same machine that I have at home. And actually now hospitals want me to bring my own because it has my settings just for me, because it literally breathes for me so that I can give my lungs a break.
Right. Because for people who are listening who don't know, your diaphragm is a major muscle in your body and that controls your breathing. And if your diaphragm goes, you're screwed because then you can't breathe.
Exactly. And my doctor told me 4 years ago that my diaphragm was only working at 20%. They expected, in 2018, I was told that by 2019, I would have a permanent trach and wear oxygen on my back and have a invasive ventilator breathing for me at all times. And my other doctor, my family doctor, was giving me medicine to keep me comfortable because he thought I would not make it that long. So
and you just proved them all wrong.
It's a miracle that I am here. Yeah.
That's amazing. I know. That's incredible. So you have to bring all these things, your medicine, your BiPAP, all these other things with you. And you also can't, you're not mobile. So you definitely have to use, I'm assuming, a wheelchair when you're in the airport because with all your luggage and stuff, you have to get from place to place. And on the blanket thing, I carry a blanket with me too, but it's because of my PTSD. And I like to put it on me at night because and we talked about this before about how we love all the layers of multiple blankets. I would just rock it and get a unicorn blanket. Honestly, right? Carry it with me.
Well, my daughter bought me a cheetah blanket. So whenever I would be checked in, because I spent a lot of time in the hospital. And so I have these fancy cheetah blankets because it feels better.
Yeah. No, it always feels better with a blanket. I totally agree with you. Thing about when you said before about people look at you and they think nothing is wrong. That's actually a thing in the celiac community is you'll see these memes and it has a picture of two people and they look exactly the same. It's the person with disability, the person without disability, because when you look at us, we look normal, right? But you can't tell all of this stuff is going on inside. And I always say people always compliment me on my skin. And I'm yeah, it's the beautiful wrapping underneath all the screwed up stuff inside that doesn't work right.
Exactly. Or when I park at a handicap spot because literally saving those 20 steps might be the difference between going home and being in bed or going home and being able to help with dinner.
Yeah.
But people look at me like I'm a monster for taking their spot.
Well, just take the cane out and hit them with it. That's all you need to do. I can still hit you with this. I know. It's funny. It's when I went to get new hearing aids last year, they used to have all these really cool colors like purple, blue, and orange. And I wanted to get purple. And they're oh, no, we don't have the colors anymore. I'm why? And they're because nobody wanted to do colorful hearing aids because then you can see them. I'm so I wear glasses. Are people going to make fun of me because I wear glasses it's back in the 70s? No, I'm I don't care. If somebody has a problem with my disability, that's their problem, not mine. They don't have to live with it. And so I'm going to do what I need to do to make me comfortable. And if I'm going to wear purple purple on my hearing aids, I'm going to wear purple hearing aids. I don't care if people see them. I need them to hear.
Exactly. Like I know people that dress up their IV pole if they get, because I used to get IVs all the time. And so they would name it and they would decorate it, and because it's part of who you are, it just, and you might as well make it fun and have fun with it than, instead of resenting it and being sad about it.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Because you're going to have it. So yeah, just make the best of it. Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to take a break here. When I come back, we're going to talk to Jen about her United experience, because you're all going to want to know this. And we're also going to talk to Jen about her travel tips for people with disabilities.
Hey, gluten-free friends, it's Liquidy. We know that traveling gluten-free can be hard, but you know what? It doesn't have to be impossible. You can still travel and be independent, have fun, and be in control of your life. Travel the way you want to, even with celiac disease. I know because I travel extensively several months out of the year with celiac disease. If you want to get started on learning more about how to travel gluten-free, grab my free ebook, 10 Tips for Traveling Gluten-Free. In my ebook, you're going to find the basics of traveling gluten-free, from the questions you need to ask when dining out to air travel and cruise travel advice. You're going to find my top tips that I've learned from my expertise. Get your free ebook today by visiting my newly revamped website, www.travelglutenfreepodcast.com. Go to the bottom of the welcome page where you're going to see the beautiful Caribbean boat picture. Click there and sign up today. Receive your free ebook, which is going to be dropped directly into your inbox. Remember, go to www.travelglutenfreepodcast.com. Go to the bottom of the welcome page and get your free ebook and find out my top tips for traveling safely when you're gluten-free.
Okay, we're back with the second half, and I'm talking to Jen Hardy of the Hardy Mom podcast. She is an amazing individual, and you totally need to go, as soon as you're done listening to this episode, people, go over and hit the follow button, because you need to listen to her podcast episodes. They are amazing and inspiring, and they will help you through your day when you're having a crappy day. They have helped me through several of my crappy days for sure. So Jen, thank you again for coming on the podcast. I'm so glad to have you as a guest today, because we definitely share disability things and lots of other things. And we also share podcasting, which I absolutely love. But let's jump into travel again. What are your travel tips for people with disability? Because you have clearly traveled with multiple disabilities that are definitely like hindering your daily life, not only and your travel. So for people out there that are listening with celiac disease, or they have some other disability, what would you recommend them to do before they travel?
So my big thing is I do not try to hit every single thing there is at a place. So if I'm going, let's say, to Washington, D.C. to see my daughter when she lived there, I am not going to schedule myself to see 5 different things every single day in Washington, D.C. so that I can say I saw it all. And sometimes that frustrates people, because they want, if they travel with me, to see all the things. But it's okay. I'll let them know it's okay if you leave me behind. I would rather take a day off every other day and rest and enjoy my time with the person I've come to see than see the things. And so that's up to the person. But for me, just because of my energy level, and I get so much more out of the trip, and then I feel good when I go home too. So I think limiting what you do and just doing the things you want to do, and giving yourself the voice to let the people you're traveling with know it's okay if I set limits, because those limits are important. And for me, making a list ahead of time. I have a list in my computer that's my packing list, and it's always the same list, but I'll pull it out. I'll update it a little depending on what we're doing. Like when we went to PodFest, I had other equipment that I wanted to bring, but I always know exactly what I'm bringing. So if you don't have that, write it up at least a week before you leave, and that way you can add things to it as you're going through your week, realizing what you needed. Because if you wait till the last minute, you're going to spend a lot of money ordering something on Amazon, or spending $500 on a $20 thing that you had to get that day at that place. Medicine, I always bring twice the amount of medicine that I think I'm going to need, because I'm not going to be able to go get more prescription medicine. And just in case I get held up or whatever, I want to make sure that I have everything. And I also bring the over-the-counter things that I just may need. Even if that takes a little extra space, I'll bring a big Ziploc bag and just put all the little things I might possibly need, because those things add up really fast, and I don't want to spend my vacation money on that kind of stuff, especially like you were saying at a cruise or whatever, where a Tylenol 2-pack is going to cost you $12.
Yes.
Just have a little bit in your thing. So those are the things I do to just make it easier for me.
And the other thing is too, is I don't want to spend the time and energy finding and stopping at a pharmacy to buy a huge bottle that I now have to take home.
Exactly. Or leave with somewhere in there.
No, it's just a pain. I know. Yeah. What I do is I actually take one of those little vitamin things and I put like Tylenol, ibuprofen, Benadryl, my daytime allergy medicine, like in just that. Cause I know what all the colors are.
Oh, I like that. That's a good idea.
And so I even like pop them out of the blister pack because it's taking all those blister packs. So anyway, but then it's funny because when I offer somebody something, they're like looking at like, are you sure you know what that is? Like, yeah, I do. No, I totally do that too. And the other thing I do, the other reason why I take extra with me too, is I always carry my prescription medication in my carry-on with me, because if I check it and they lose it, then then you're done for.
I absolutely never check your medicine.
At least your prescription medicine.
Your prescription medicine or anything that helps keep you alive has got to be with you. That would be like flag red, like number one. Absolutely do not check those things. Which is what led to my United.
Yes. So let's talk about the United situation. So Jen actually has this on her podcast, so you can listen to it in great detail. And then that's okay. If you go on Jen Hardy's podcast, the Hardy Mom podcast, and just scroll down, you'll see the title where it says United.
It's in the 30s. I can tell you that. And so, I need all this equipment. I absolutely need it. I have the BiPAP, but I also have a nebulizer so that I can breathe in medicine if I need it, which I frequently do if I travel to a new area because I have allergies, and then it triggers all the things and the asthma. So I had this bag and it had all my prescription medicine and my machines in it. And so I was allowed to take one carry-on in my purse or personal item or whatever. The American with Disabilities Act specifically says that any kind of medical equipment, you're allowed to take your other bags. So you are allowed to take an extra bag with those things. And so I had looked it up. I knew so that they can look it up and see before they travel, because it's so important to know and have that information with you. I didn't have it pulled up at the time. When I went to check in at the first airport, the people started arguing with me at United. So I ended up...
Which airport was this?
This was Nashville.
Oh.
This was the Nashville airport because I was living in the Nashville area at that time. And so I went to check in. First lady wouldn't let me do it. Second lady wouldn't let me do it. They get a third lady and she says, well, I'm going to let you go to the gate with it, but they may insist that you stow it. So I got there, and of course they didn't make me because they know what the law is. But then when I got to DC airport, they forgot to get my wheelchair. Everybody else got off the plane, left me there. They were about to get off the plane, and I said, hey, is my wheelchair here? And
so they left you at the gate.
No, at the first time I was in the plane. I was still in the plane. And
they left you on the airplane by yourself.
Well, they were cleaning the plane. They were cleaning around me, and I'm sitting there. Every passenger was off. Everybody was gone except the people cleaning the plane for the next flight. And I said, hey, and I'm sitting in the front. It wasn't like I was hiding.
Wow.
And she said, oh, I think we forgot. So they got my wheelchair. They did get me off, and I got off. Well, then that was in DC. So then when I go home, I go to check in at the DC airport, and I have the same argument with the people about my extra bag. You can't.
And this is United.
Bag. Still United. It's all United. And so there, I think I have it written down. I think I actually talked to 5 people there, and they would make me move from one person to the next person. And I didn't have my wheelchair yet. And I hadn't brought my cane because I was going to have one at home. And so it was really difficult, and they were making me move, and it was really hard. And anyway, so then I got on the plane clearly with all of my things because that is the law. But then when I got off in Nashville, it was a late night flight. It was at the end of the terminal. We got there. It was the same thing. I was on the plane. Everyone was off the plane. They were cleaning the plane. And I said, hey, do you have my wheelchair? And they said, oh, I forgot to order it. So I'm going to get you off the airplane. So she helps me walk off the airport plane. Now you have to remember, I didn't check any bags. So I had my big carry-on and my purse and my medical bag. And I had to take all that with me. And so I'm leaning up against a wall. And she says, okay, I'm going to try to find something. She just left. And so I'm sitting there, and then they finally got someone to bring a wheelchair. They dropped it off and took off. And so the flight crew said, well, we've got to go. We can't sit around here all day. And they left me alone in the terminal. There's a video that you can share of me sitting in a terminal at night in a wheelchair by myself, all alone. It was crazy. And there was some random guy that walked by, and he's like, if I come by again when I get back here and you're still here, I'll wheel you to the front. And he was the only one to come back and check on me. And he ended up wheeling me halfway. And finally, the wheelchair person came. I don't even know. It was close to an hour after the plane had landed. And then that person brought me to the front, said, I don't need the chair, and turned around and walked away and left me alone in the wheelchair out front of the airport.
Wow, that is so unacceptable. That is so far from acceptable. It's just,
and I had videos of everything that happened, and I talked to United Airlines, and the only thing they would do is give me a single ticket to go again. But I was terrified to go again by myself because if that happened 4 separate times, there was a small likelihood that I wouldn't have it ever happen again.
That's like, that would be like, like, why go back when you know the service is going to suck? They're going to leave you alone by yourself. You can't get anywhere, right? Like you can't, it's not like your leg is injured and you have the energy in your arms to like wheel yourself somewhere. That's ridiculous. Right, that's the thing.
So I don't have the muscles in my arms to wheel. And so, and they're not electric wheelchairs that you get. It's all manual wheelchairs.
Yeah.
So yes, so I was completely stuck. So definitely if you're going to travel, know the law, know the rules, have it pulled up on your phone, tell them how it's going to be. And don't let them check your bags.
Yes, you can always tell them no. Yes. And that's the thing. You really have to advocate for yourself no matter what you do, but especially when you have disabilities, because people will tell you things that are completely wrong. Like my daughter, who has, she has celiac disease, rheumatoid arthritis, and lupus, travels with her service dog, and people try to tell her things and she knows, and she'll tell them, nope. She's like, no, I can bring my service dog on the plane, or he can sit right here, or he can do whatever. And she knows, and she won't let anybody tell her anything different, which is great because she's very independent. No, you have to advocate for yourself. So does the American Disabilities, because I have not looked it up, do they have an app that you can use that you can put on your phone that you can like pull this up for people?
That's a really good question. And I haven't looked, but I'm going to look while we finish our conversation.
Okay, sounds good.
No, I don't think they do. There's a beta website right now. It's like beta.ada.gov. No, they do not have a web there. They have the website, but not the app. But everybody has this.
I think that's a great idea to like have that already pulled up on your phone to like on a website page, so that if somebody gives you crap about it, you can just show them like, here's the ADA website. Like, this is what I'm legally entitled to. Like, you guys have a choice to do it or not. That's ridiculous that they do.
And you just can't get too grumpy with people at the airlines, because then they can refuse to have you get on the plane. So you have to advocate yourself, but in a very kind of polite manner, because then they won't take you somewhere. And I didn't run into that, but I have heard of that as well.
Yes. No, I've heard of that happening as well, too, with different people. It's just, crying crazy. Oh, my gosh. So, Jen, anything you would like to tell people, like in general, like what's your advice for people that are living with like celiac disease and disabilities like yours?
My advice would be find a couple of goals that you have for yourself. And they may be things that you don't even think you can achieve. Make a way to make one of them happen. So I always wanted to write a book. I never thought I could write a book, and I did. I wrote my book. I published my book. My book is still selling today on its own. I'm not even advertising. It's still selling. And it was one of my proudest moments. So whatever your situation is, and I'll just emphasize that by saying I've got a friend that trained horses, designed websites, homeschooled her kids, and now she's a coach for coaches, who also happens to be legally blind. And I'm going to tell you what, if she can do all those things, no matter what you're dealing with, she designed websites. You can do it. So.
Wow, that is incredible. How in the heck do you design websites being blind? That's amazing.
Yeah, she was my very first ever interview on my podcast, episode 2. She is an amazing woman, Nikki Brown. She does things you would think people that don't have any disabilities would think they couldn't even do the things she does. And here she is every single day.
Oh, yeah. So. It just depends on how determined you are to do it. And the other thing I noticed is too, since I've had celiac disease, is like some days you have like X on your agenda, right? And you can't get to it all, but you just have to be very patient and like forgiving of yourself. Be like, okay, you get done what you can get done, and that's okay. And then the next day, get done what you can get done.
Well, and that would be number 2 is give yourself grace. Give yourself grace. So just because you set a goal with a date of August 1st, if August 1st comes and goes because you haven't been feeling well, that's okay. Then it's September 1st. Failure. It just means that you're going to give yourself grace and know that you will get it done eventually.
Because people with no disabilities miss deadlines. So it's not a disability thing. No, we just have to do it with more challenges. It's like, this reminds me of the quote. I don't know if you know Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers. They were like really popular dancers back in the 40s. Okay. So they were being interviewed one time, and they asked Ginger Rogers, what do you do in relationship to what Fred Astaire does? And she says, I do everything he does except backwards and in heels.
I love it. And so that's exactly how we live.
Yes, we do everything everyone else does except backwards and in heels. the
And
disability.
there's literally, I mean, almost nothing that you can't do. It's just going to take some modifications and some assistance, but you can do it.
Modifying is a big big thing in our lives, that's for sure. Modifications and workarounds are two big things. So Jen, at the end of every podcast, I ask people a couple of different sets of questions. So what is my travel plans? So what is a city, region, or place you would highly recommend to a traveler or a person with disabilities that's traveling, like a gluten-free traveler?
Oh, you know what? I'm just going to say exactly where I live is the best place to visit. I live in a little island. There's a town called Indialantic or Indian Harbor Beach, and you can come. We're right by NASA. You can sit. The waves are very gentle and mild, and you can watch spaceships and literally swim with dolphins without paying money. It's the best place ever in the whole world.
And so East Coast or West Coast of Florida?
East Coast, Florida. Central East Coast, Florida.
How far are you guys from Cape Canaveral?
We're 15 miles as the crow flies. So we literally watch rocket launches from my front yard.
Okay. So when I'm there this weekend, I may be able to come and see you for a little bit.
Oh, that would be so much fun.
Cool. Awesome. Okay. So my next question is what is your next trip you are taking or thinking about taking in the next calendar year?
So my next trip is going to be to Germany because I have a daughter that lives there. And then we're going to travel to France and Italy while we're there. And we're going to spend about a month with her.
Oh, that's exciting. So I will tell you, France and Germany are really hard with food allergens, but Italy is amazing. Like Italy, you'll be able to get the most amazing gluten-free food.
Oh, I can't wait. I just can't wait. I've been to Italy before. It was my favorite. It was the one I didn't really want to go to the last time. And I could have just stayed there forever.
I haven't been to Italy. It's been so on my hit list for years. So I'm going next.
It is wonderful.
I have to ask you this follow-up question. What's your favorite part of Italy?
It wasn't a particular city. I honestly couldn't tell you where I was, but it was like a movie when I was there. I was in a city and there was we were under a pergola and there were the vines dripping down and I had a man do a charcoal painting of me when I was 17. And it was and he made me the ultimate version of myself.
Oh, I love it.
I brought that home. It was just, I don't know, when I think of that whole trip, because I went to school on the French Riviera, it was part of a whole thing. And out of all of that, that was why my one moment that was just so beautiful. You know, I think look for the beauty in the small things. I think that would be the lesson out of that one too, is it might not be, you know, the Louvre or whatever, but that just was my ultimate travel moment.
Oh, that's incredible. I love it. So I've got some gluten-free questions for you because my first question is what is the food you miss most and why?
Spaghetti Factory brown butter and Mizithra cheese spaghetti is my ultimate favorite food of all time. Going anywhere near that. Yeah.
Okay. Spaghetti Factory in Victoria, Canada does a great job of gluten-free. I will tell you that.
Oh,
I know that for sure.
Okay.
Yes. What is the best gluten-free food you've recently eaten? It can be something you've made, something you've gotten at a restaurant, something you picked up at the store.
Oh my gosh, these Brazilian cheese bites. They're these
Brazzy bites.
Bread. Yes. Oh my goodness. Costco, $12 for a huge bag. I eat them every day, honestly.
I know. It's so funny. I will make, oh no, you can eat them every day. I give you permission to eat them every day. No, it's so funny because every time I get that huge bag, I make half the bag. And I'm like, okay, I'll only eat 3 or 4. And then 10 later, I'm done.
Oh yeah. I make 10 at a time. I do.
Yes. Because there's no point in making any less. No, realistically,
then you have to wait 20 minutes to be filled. No, you need. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes. Last question. If a magic genie could grant a wish for you to eat 3 regular food items on your birthday, which 3 food items would you choose? You
know, it's funny, when I could eat gluten, I didn't really like cake, but to actually enjoy a real piece of birthday cake would be fantastic. I think my brown butter and Mizithra cheese. I absolutely adore that. And gosh, that's a good question. Probably some sort of French pastry because I miss my
fair
pastries.
Enough. All right. Well, Jen, this has been so awesome chatting with you. I love it. And I know people are going to want to find out more about you and listen to the Hardy Mom podcast. So where can people find you online besides going on their favorite podcast player and subscribing to the Hardy Mom podcast?
HardyMom.com. Super simple. Everything is there. The book, the podcast, everything you need to find out is right there.
And what's your book's name?
Called The Sick Mom's Guide to Having Fun Again.
I know a lot of my listeners will get a lot out of that.
It may change. It's actually, yeah. And you don't have to be a mom to enjoy it. It's different ways to enjoy your life, no matter where you are physically.
I love it. Well, Jen, thank you for coming on today and sharing your travel experiences and your travel advice for people with disabilities. I know my listeners are getting a lot of value out of this episode. So thank you so much for coming on today. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate being here. Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Travel Gluten Free Podcast is a production of Travel Gluten Free LLC. Looking for a great way to connect with over 2,000 consumers per month? contact Aliquity for information on sponsorship levels to boost your business. Subscribe today so you won't miss a single episode of Travel Gluten Free. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Pandora, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.